An investigation into the registry of motor vehicles determined the agency failed to process alerts from other states about Massachusetts drivers for many years, creating a massive backlog which allowed thousands of drivers, including the one that killed 7 motorcyclists in New Hampshire, to stay on the road. That investigation, which was conducted by an outside firm retained by the governor's office, determined that, quote, Massachusetts had a longstanding policy of not prioritizing the processing of out-of-state notifications, spanning multiple administrations of the state's government's executive branch, but it did not go as far as to say top officials in the governor's office were aware of the problems in advance, and Governor Charlie Baker has said he didn't know about the safety lapses until it was too late.
And I was first made aware of the discrepancy on this on the day that the registrar resigned.
But a second investigation run by the State House Transportation Committee is still looking into what the Baker administration knew and when. I'm joined now by one of the men leading that charge, Representative Bill Strauss. Representative Good, thank you so much for being here. In response to your request, the Baker administration put out a statement saying they gave you almost 1 million documents. But you say you've received some from an independent source that suggests that they were not disclosing that which you requested, at least all that you requested. Like what?
Well, actually, we've received additional information from more than one source. Several people have contacted the committee, and what we have found is that, one, there was a different kind of internal software that people communicated these projects to each other. We haven't really seen the documents on that, although we know they exist. It's a software called Asana. We also have received emails that indicate something of an effort to not produce information itself. There was a caution from a woman who has always carried the title of Deputy Chief of Staff to the Governor, who worked at the registry both before and after the Zukovsky case, and she admonished people for describing things and said, this is not for emails.
Well, here's exactly. There was an email from a woman, Lucy Spagnuolo, I believe, at the RMV, raising a bunch of issues about processing out-of-state information. And to quote directly, Mindy Darbeloff, Deputy Chief of Staff to the Governor's response is, 4 minutes later, by the way, in July, this is not an email conversation. We will gather a meeting. What's wrong with that? This is a serious matter. Why shouldn't she say, let's get together and talk face-to-face?
What you can't see in that email, but we released to the press on Tuesday, is they had a meeting earlier that day, about 2 hours previously, and they were having these meetings every day anyway. So the meeting, I would interpret, is really a not-so-subtle code word that says, we only talk about this, we don't write about it.
Do you think the failure to give you everything that you say you were entitled to or that you requested is benign, to use a word you broached the other day, or is there an intent to shield certain information from the legislature's committee?
In a number of instances, we have become aware of documents and have stated them publicly where they haven't been provided to us. So more and more each day, I have to come to a conclusion that someone within the administration prefers not to share information. And it's in a context, remember, where they were refusing to even send witnesses to the State House to testify.
But they did the following week.
They did under great, enormous pressure. So the context, the starting point for them is not to share, and I think that's still playing out.
The governor has said, I think as recently as yesterday, tell me what you want, Representative. Tell me what you want, legislature. I'll give it to you. Tell them what you want.
Well, as a starter, I think that's a very gracious offer by the governor, and I think I'd like to take him up on that. The first thing I would ask for, if he wants to help out starting tomorrow, is the Grant Thornton report that you referenced, which cost so far the state $1 million. They interviewed 41 different people. They either transcribed, recorded, or made transcripts of the interviews. We only have brief summaries of them in the Grant Thornton report. Make all 41 interview information public.
Have they refused it, or you're just requesting
no, I'm just saying that now.
What else do you want?
I think that would start. There are also certain kinds of documents that were specifically, intentionally not recorded by email, but handed out at meetings and then scooped up at the conclusion of the meetings. And these are documents that were known by the Deputy Chief of Staff, the Acting Registrar, the Chief Operating Officer. They know these documents. They saw them. They presented them at meetings in the aftermath of Zukovsky, and they should release them tomorrow.
One last thing, Representative. As I said at the top, the governor and Secretary Pollack have said they knew nothing about this until the day that the registrar resigned. Do you have any evidence to contradict their assertion?
As to the governor and the secretary, I do not.
Representative, thank you for keeping us apprised of all these things. We really appreciate your time. Bill Strauss.